One weekend, 3 casinos, $15 million gone from the house. Not stolen, not cheated, just calculated away. And the man who did it never touched a hidden device, never palmed a card, never broke a single law. He just understood something about probability that the casinos forgot they were vulnerable to. Let me tell you how one man with a legal pad and a very specific kind of brain walked into 3 Atlantic City properties over a single weekend and walked out having flipped the oldest rule in gambling completely on its head. Here's the thing most people believe. They think the house always wins, and in the long run, over millions of hands, over years of play, that's true. The math is designed that way. The house edge on almost every game guarantees it, but the operative phrase there is in the long run. What happens when someone shows up who understands that the long run doesn't apply to a single weekend? What happens when a player negotiates the math itself before he ever sits down? That's exactly what this man figured out. And to understand how, you need to understand who he was. Picture a guy who doesn't look like a gambler at all. No flashy jewelry, no entourage, no bravado at the rail. Quiet, analytical, the kind of man who reads spreadsheets for fun. Before he ever set foot on a casino floor as a whale, he'd spent years studying risk professionally, the actual mathematics of when to bet, how much, and under what conditions. He knew that gambling isn't really about luck. Luck is just noise. Underneath the noise, there's a signal, and the signal is pure arithmetic. And here's where it gets interesting. He didn't start by trying to beat the game. He started by studying the casinos themselves. Because in the years leading up to that weekend, Atlantic City was bleeding. The recession had gutted the town. The big properties were desperate for high rollers, desperate for whales who'd sit down and drop serious money at the tables. And when a business gets desperate, it starts giving things away. That desperation was the crack in the wall, and this man walked right up to it and pushed. So what did he actually do? He negotiated. Now, most people don't even know this is possible. You walk into a casino, the rules are the rules, right? The house edge is fixed, the table limits are posted, and you play or you don't. Wrong. When you're a whale, when you're willing to wager hundreds of thousands of dollars per hand, the casino wants you so badly they'll bend the rules to get you through the door. They'll comp your suite, your meals, your flights. But this man wanted more than a free room. He wanted the math. Here's what he asked for, and this is the detail almost nobody knows. He asked the casinos for what's called a loss rebate. The deal was simple. If he lost money over a session, the house would give a percentage of it back, sometimes 20%. So if he dropped $500,000, the casino would hand him back $100,000. On paper, the pit bosses looked at that and thought, fine, we still keep the rest, we still win. But they missed something, and what they missed cost them everything. Because a loss rebate doesn't just soften your losses, it changes the entire mathematical structure of the game. It shifts the break-even point. When you get money back on your downswings but keep all of your upswings, the edge, that sacred 0.5% advantage the house is supposed to have, starts to shrink. And if you negotiate the right rules alongside it, it can flip negative, meaning the player, not the house, holds the advantage. Let me show you how the rest of the trap was built. He didn't stop at the rebate. He negotiated the game conditions too. He asked them to use a shoe with specific rules, the dealer standing on soft 17, the ability to split and double down under favorable terms, and crucially, a limited number of decks. Each of these tweaks sounds tiny. Each one shaves a fraction of a percent off the house edge. But stack them together, add the loss rebate on top, and the arithmetic transforms. The 0.5% advantage the casino thought it had? Gone. Reversed. Now the player was the one grinding out an edge, hand after hand, and the house was the one on the wrong side of the math. And here's the part that still amazes me. The casinos said yes, all of them, because each pit boss looked only at their own piece of the deal, never at the whole machine he'd assembled. They saw a whale willing to bet $100,000 a hand. They saw the drop. They saw the hold percentage they expected to keep. They didn't see the man quietly stacking probabilities in his favor like a bricklayer building a wall between himself and their money. Now think about that for a second. Would you have caught it? If you were the pit boss and a soft-spoken high roller offered to bet 6 figures a hand, but only if you gave him a loss rebate and adjusted a few table rules, would you have run the full math before shaking his hand? Or would you have seen the size of those bets and said yes on the spot? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments because this is exactly where the casinos went wrong. They trusted their instinct instead of their calculators. So the weekend arrives. He sits down at the first casino, and he starts to play. This is where discipline becomes everything. Having an edge is one thing. Actually executing it hand after hand, hour after hour, without tilting, without chasing, without letting a bad streak rattle you into a stupid bet. That's another thing entirely. Most gamblers can't do it. Their emotions run the show. But this man treated it like an equation. Every wager was the same size, sized precisely to his bankroll and his edge. He pressed nothing out of greed. He chased nothing out of anger. When he won, he colored up and moved on. When he lost, the rebate cushioned him and he kept grinding. Cold, mechanical, relentless. And the money started flowing the wrong way for the house. At the first property, he cleaned up. Then he moved to the second. Same playbook, same discipline, same result. And then the third. By the time that weekend was over, the combined damage across those 3 casinos ran into the millions. And over the broader stretch of his run, the total pulled from Atlantic City tables climbed toward $15 million. From one man, with a legal pad, and a deal the house handed him voluntarily. But this is the twist that really gets me. He wasn't card counting. Let me be crystal clear about that, because people always assume he must have been. Card counting is when you track the ratio of high to low cards in the shoe and raise your bets when the deck's in your favor. It's legal, but the house can back you off for it, politely ask you to leave, or bar you outright. This man never needed to count. His edge wasn't hidden in the cards. It was written into the contract he signed at the front desk. He beat them with a pen, not a memory. And that's why they couldn't back him off for cheating. There was nothing to catch. The eye in the sky could watch him all day and see a man playing perfectly ordinary blackjack, because the real advantage play happened before the first card was ever dealt. If you've ever wondered how advantage players actually operate, the edge sorters, the shuffle trackers, the ones who bend the game without breaking the law, we've got a whole separate video breaking down those techniques, and it pairs perfectly with this one. Now here's what happened next, and it's the part that proves he really did break something. The casinos changed their policies. After runs like his, properties across Atlantic City quietly rewrote the rules on loss rebates and negotiated table conditions. They tightened the terms. They ran the full math before offering a deal. In other words, one man forced an entire industry to patch a hole it didn't even know it had. That's not luck. That's not a hot streak. That's a person who found a genuine flaw in how the house did business and exploited it with surgical precision until they slammed the door shut behind him. And if stories like this, the real mechanics behind how the house actually gets beaten, are the kind of thing you find fascinating, then you already know what to do. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Was what he did brilliant, or was it unfair? Because he broke no laws. He signed the deals they offered. He simply understood the math better than the people whose entire business is math. Some people call that genius. Others call it exploiting desperation. Which side are you on? Tell me in the comments, because I promise you, this one splits the room right down the middle.